All right, I think we can get started. It's 3 minutes after 4 p.m. New participants, we are gonna let them in as soon as they arrive. So, hello and welcome to our online expert talk about social inclusion and social justice along the Via Alpina. The Via Alpina, as many of you might already know, is the long-distance hiking trail that has been connecting all Alpine countries for over 20 years. And my name is Veronika Ribanik. I work in the communications team at CIPRA International, and together with my colleague Maya Kogoshek, we will guide you through this expert talk today afternoon. So a bit of context, this expert talk is part of the Via Alpina Youth Walking the Change project. And this project, it spreads knowledge, ideas, and opportunities on sustainable lifestyles, inclusion, environmental protection, and climate change along the Via Alpina. And this project of ours, Via Alpina Youth, and this expert talk today, they're also made possible by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. And already now we have reached quite a nice amount of people. So before we dive into the expert talks, we would like to take a screenshot for our documentation. So I would ask all of you who want to turn on your cameras and to smile into your webcams. And then Maya can take a picture of all of us. So yes, cool. All right, then I'll count down 3, 2, 1, and then Maya can take the picture. So everybody knows when to keep their eyes open and to smile. Okay, so, okay, I see some people are still turning on the cameras. Very nice. Let's wait another second. Wonderful. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Super. Thank you, Maya. Great. And yes, now Maya is going to take over and she will tell us quickly about what to expect from today.
Yes, thank you, Veronika. Hello to everyone also from my side. Thank you for joining today in such a nice number. We will explore two very important and complex topic of social inclusion and social justice. As you probably already read in the program, we will have an opportunity to host and to hear two experts from this field. First, do you see my screen now? Yes, super. First, we will have an opportunity to hear about Italian organization Cooperativa Kiriku, and later about French organization and Passant par la Montagne, where Margo de Lange will tell us more about their work. So I hope this 1 hour will be a nice opportunity to explore what inclusion and social justice in the mountains really mean, what are some good practice examples, and what can we do and how can we work together to foster inclusion. After these two expert inputs, we will have also time for open discussion and wrap up. So please, if you have any questions during the presentation, write them in the chat or wait until the end and raise your hand, and me and Veronika will give you the word afterwards.
Great. Thank you, Maya. So when we think about being in the mountains, we often connect it with the feeling of freedom and that up in the mountains everybody is equal. But in reality, it's not quite like that. Before we dive into the presentations, our colleague Henny from CIPRA Germany is going to read a short commentary she wrote for our newsletter and for our website, which described the issue very well. So Henny, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Quick check.
Yes.
All right then. Okay. Think back for a moment to your last mountain tour or your last overnight stay in a mountain hut. How many people were there? And how many people were white? How many were able-bodied, so not physically disabled, and able-minded, not mentally disabled? How many with an academic background? How many were equipped or dressed with common outdoor brands? And how many not? What sounds like a boundless experience of nature, fairness, and equality is often more than inadequate in reality. Access to the mountains and mountain sports is often unfair, exclusive, segregating, and discriminatory. Mountain sports are practiced by people who are able-bodied and able-minded. Family access is also an important factor for participation in sport. Knowledge, expertise, and motivation for mountain sports and nature conservation usually come from the family, especially during childhood. If there is no family connection, statistically in socially disadvantaged families, access is much more difficult. Mountain sports are practiced by people from a socially privileged background.
Thank you, Henny, for your thoughts. I think it's a great dive into the topic. And this leads us to our first expert from the social Cooperativa Kiriku, which was founded in 2009 and is based in Italian city of Montebelluna, which is 70 kilometers north of Venice. They are working with youngsters with less opportunities who very often come from lower income environments and also suffer with educational poverty and lack of support. So this organization tries to empower them and offer opportunities and somehow connect and involve them and also their families back with their society. So we are very happy that we have you, Andrea Canil, the project manager from this organization here, to tell us a bit more about your work and about your projects. Thank you for joining us, and please, you can start sharing.
Thank you, Maya. So I will check also if you hear me. And in the meantime, I'm going to share my presentation. So yeah, you are supposed to see my presentation, right? Okay. So thank you. First of all, let me thank you to have invited me to participate in this talk. It is really a pleasure for me because it's something that I do like to have a good confrontation, especially on these topics. And also, I'd like to our cooperative is seeking to have more confrontation on these topics, also with different organizations, and we like to hear different practices, good practices from all around Europe or all around the world. So I will start just to give you some brief presentation of our cooperative. As Maya said, we are based in Montebelluna, like 50 kilometers more or less far from Venice. We are also we have been established in 2009, but I'm working for Kiriku since 2018. We work in an area. We cover the whole province of Treviso, but we work in some areas that might be considered far for cultural centers, where connections are not very good, cultural activities are not very often available to people, and that therefore sometimes there are also some lack of opportunities to develop the personal skills of the peoples. So what we do, what's our main goal, is that to contribute in some way to develop a better society, to empower society, and to try to connect people in order to create a safe net where everybody feels free, safe, and able to fully develop themselves. This is our also approach. So we are an approach that is based on a person, we will look mostly of what are the person needs, what are the person abilities. We try to make the abilities of the person emerge. And also, how do we do that? By, as I was saying, by creating connection. We believe that working with society, it is a work like sewing. We sew people, we sew institutions, we try to make them all together to work to improve themselves and their society for an improvement. Having said that, I've been asked to give you some concept of social justice. So social justice is it's a very let's say it has a long tradition, because some sort of early concept of social justice might also be found in the Greeks philosopher. During the time, it has evolved according to all the times that has passed, and also the different, let's say, cultural references that were at the time. Nowadays, social justice has a broad meaning. It may involve both rights, opportunities, wealth distribution. So basically, here you will find like the what are the most important topics on the concept of social justice. So it's a just and balance in terms of wealth distribution. So it is focused on wealth, but wealth not only intended as an economical one, but also as the possibility to access to different experiences and to be able to fully express oneself. So equal opportunities to everybody. In the past years, this concept has been related more to the work, especially in the European Union, as in fact the whole social justice concept in the European Union has started to emerge related to jobs, and what meant to foster better opportunity to find jobs, inclusive jobs, regardless of age, sex, disability or not, or sexual orientation. But then it has been broader, and now we in the European Union, we speak about social rights inclusion. So the fact that each individual's rights has to be recognized and protected. And of course, as I was saying, it would cover a really broad area of meaning. So it might be related to taxation, to social security, to public healthcare access, public education, services, etc., etc. But something that most everybody don't remember about when we speak about social justice is that it is not only the fact of being one's rights recognized, but it carries on a duty for the individual. And the duty is to actively participate and to cooperate in society. Without this concept, equal society is not possible, because everybody has to do their parts in order to build this equal and accessible society. So as I was saying before, we work with, we believe that sewing society together is a way to start improving society itself. But we work with very specific kind of, let's say, people. We work mostly with minors and with their family, but also with subjects that are that has fewer opportunities. But what we focus on more is the educational poverty. So I will give you some definition. This is what you can read is the definition of educational poverty. That is the inability for a children or an adolescents to learn, experience, and develop and freely cultivate their capacities, talents, and aspiration. And this deprivation can limit the development of their cognitive, social, and relational skills. So what this deprivation really means is that by not having the possibility to, let's say, basically have experience, they would also not be able to develop all the skills and the abilities that they will need in their adult life, which is for jobs, which is for staying in society, or for whatever. So just to be clear, educational poverty has several, let's say, causes. Of course, it can also start from economic disadvantages, but not only. Sometimes we see that there are children in this situation that has the parents that do not dedicate enough attention to them. They do not give the right weight on the way to express. They do not allow them to have experience, basically like doing sports, for example, or participate to school activities. Or it is not linked with disability. A person that is disabled may be disabled and also in educational poverty, because if he does not have access to experience, it also would not have the possibility to develop a sort of skills. And so this is to give you an overview of educational poverty. How do we do that? I was saying before, linking SafeNet. Why do you believe that this is the way? Because we work on a generative welfare not mini. Our intent is to develop a generative welfare. Generative welfare is the ability for the society to recognize that within itself, it has all the means to act, to change, and to foster development. So when someone uses this approach, and what we do, we focus more on the actual resources that the society has, and we look at it in a regenerating way. We base on these are three pillars like solidarity, equality, and responsibility. As I was saying before, solidarity because everyone needs to take their part, okay, and to help each other. Equality because everyone has to be equal in access in the society and then participate in this society in this kind of welfare type. And also responsibility because everyone has the responsibility to take action. It encourages the citizens, of course, as I was saying, to contribute to the common good and fostering the community welfare system. So far, I just gave you some overview of the main topics and on the concept that we use on our daily basis. I will now move on and give you an example of a project that we are actually carrying out, but that also has have been some, let's say, positive aspects, some success that we have carried out here in Asolo. I don't know if you are aware of Asolo or if you ever heard of it. It's a little village next to Montebelluna, and we are on the base of Monte Grappa. I don't know if anyone of you is familiar. Asolo is on a territory that is on a hillside territory, and it is in a territory that is far for services, cultural centers, and etc. But we work in the city, in particular into a fraction of Oslo, where the local residents, they were feeling like excluded for society. They have this feeling that they were overlooked, that the administration were not paying to them so much attention, and also that they were not heard by the administration while there was while they were taking their decision. In particular, we were called because a local of adults of Oslo contacted the administration because there was a problem with some youth. So there were this kind of this group of youngsters that were left alone, wandering around of the city. And basically what they created was some acts of vandalism. And when the adults tried to approach them, the results were not so successful. So there was this social conflict, a really a tension between them and the children, but also this tension were growing on, and then were like growing on, and it started to be felt not only towards these children, but also the families of the children, and also to the society itself. So what have we done? First of all, we start to tackle the youth, this kind of youth that were the problematic youth. How? By by going in touch with them. Simply, we connected with them. We asked them, what are you doing? Why you're here? What would you like to do? And by doing so, also we asked them, is there something that you would like us to do for you? Would you like to organize with you something? So we were empowering them. And so by the fact that simply doing that, they started to be less, let's say, troublesome. Vandalism has stopped. They started to organize their own events, and also they are starting to own the places where they were living. So yeah, that kind of problem start to diminish. At the same time, we started to work with the adults that they had this problem in dealing with children, but training them on teaching them how to behave with children, how it is possible to engage them and to work together. And we connected these children with the adults, and now we will see later on we are working together. At the same time, from this group of adults, that they were saying that the problem of the youth was because they were far from the decision center. They were denied their voice in the decision. They started to group together, and they developed autonomously a urban requalification group discussion. So they started to say, okay, in our area, what is something that we would like to see? How can we improve our area? And what can we do, basically? What we did is we helped them in develop their plan, in making their needs to emerge. And after this happened, we made in contact them with the administration. So they came, they explained their needs, what they have in mind to develop their area. And we started to dialogue with the administration. At this time, the dialogue is still on, but they are now working together towards the future plan for their area. A third committee has been created. So in the same group, they decided that one of the problems of the children, it was the fact that the family of the children were mostly of migrants or origins. They said, okay, children are left out without any surveillance. They do not respect rules, maybe because their families do not engage with them. They not exchange also with the other adults, but also they do not pay attention to what their children were doing. So this third committee decided that it was the time to go and meet these families. And this happened. So they went to the families, they explained, okay, you know, your kids are doing, sometimes they are making some troubles. Can we do it? Is there a way where we can cooperate and we can help each other in making this, making them aware of the problem that we're doing? And this worked. We will see later on. Also, this committee, they started to go and meet the different families, especially the one that has a newborn, in order to create a network, as I was saying, that would help these new families, sorry, to be more integrated in society and to find the safe net that maybe they needed. So what are the results of the action so far? On the youth field, there's been the creation of the youth center. Here you see the picture where ci sto a fare fatica. This is a project that our cooperative runs in different towns here. We've done this also in Oslo. But this is the wall of the youth center that has been opened after that we make adults and youngsters to work together. The youth center has been co-decided between youngsters and adults. So we listen, what we ask to the children, What would you like to have? A place where to meet, a place where to stay. Okay. What would you like to have in what materials would you like to have there? And they said, okay, we would like to have tables, something simple stuff. One thing that surprised me, for example, is that they wanted some LED lights. I don't know why, but LED lights was so important for them, so we gave it to them. But on the other side, we said to them, okay, now you would help us to make this place your own and to make this place a place where you can live and you can respect it. So they help us manually, like painting and fixing stuff, etc. And they work together with the adults. So this for the youth part. Adults now, they keep open the youth center sometimes in order for the youth to be able to access to it. Then, as I was saying, the welcome committee, they engage with their families, and now we have migrant families that were not involved before that work in this committee as well, and they exchange, let's say, advices on how to deal with children. The urban requalification project is going on. The dialogue with the administration is going forward, as in fact now there are some technicians that are trying to translate in a technical way what the group of people would like to see in their city. This is because they would like they are waiting for, I don't know, some projects, some findings in order to be this project to be realized. But the important fact is that this project is really of the urban requalification is starting from a top, from the base, from the citizens. So what the administration simply says it was, okay, these are your idea, let's work together and see what we can do, what is feasible to do. And then the last results that we had is that the community, also other different part of the community started to be involved in the process. So not only the adults that started the process that asked for help, but also the school intervened, church institution intervened, also businesses that are there in the local areas, they decided to be part of this movement. So now there is this, the big confrontation table where all these actors with different interests, also other migrants communities start to be part of this process. So now there is this, let's say, a table. They meet regularly, almost once a month, and simply they discuss what they can do to improve their society, to improve their territory. So why this is an example might be a social justice example. But for the fact that I was saying, we focus on the resources that were already there. We help them to develop them and to raise them, to make them in practice. The process led to the inclusion of some people that were marginalized before. I would say migrant people, youngsters, but also the society itself now is more hurt by the administration. They feel also that they are being part of this process actively, and of course it fosters citizenship and ownership of the place. As I was saying, children now, youth center, they say this is our youth center, we created it. People now say, okay, the plan for this, the development that we're making is something that we wanted, something that we are going to make in place. So everyone now feels included in their society, in their place, and by doing that, we activated the different resources and actors, as I was saying, also the private sector, not only the public, not only citizenship group and association. So my presentation is finished. Later on, if you would like if you have some question, I would be more than pleased to ask you, to answer them, sorry. And yeah, I'm here if you want any clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for this interesting presentation. You can stop sharing. Exactly, thank you. If anyone of you from the people attending have any questions or comments, for now you can write them in the chat. And after the second presentation, we're going to have some time to answer and discuss your questions. So now we move on to our second expert today, which is Margo de Lange from the French Association En Passant par le Montagne, which is based in Servoz near Chamonix-Mont-Blanc, and which is probably one of the most famous places in alpinism worldwide. And for those of you who understand a bit of French, En Passant par la Montagne, it already suggests that a lot of their activities actually happen in the mountains. The association helps young people and adults that are facing difficult life situations to gain access to the world of the mountains, to discover the benefits of the surroundings, and to use them as motivation to make a new start in life. And I will give over. So welcome, Margo, again. She's a project manager at En Passant par la Montagne, and you can already see her presentation. So please go ahead and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Veronica, for the introduction, and thanks a lot as well to Andrea for setting the scene in terms of social inclusion and social justice, and thanks as well to CIPRA in general for the invitation to be here. I'm not here presenting alone. I am joined by Barbara and Damien and Boris. Maybe if I just stop sharing for a bit, they can wave so you can see the rest of the team as well. There they are. All right, I start sharing again. And so I am actually part of the board of En Passant par la Montagne. So they're the team that makes this happen in practice. But I have the pleasure and honor to present to you today. I will tell you a little bit about En Passant par la Montagne in general as an association, and then I will specifically focus on two specific initiatives that we do with the organization in practice. So in general, En Passant par la Montagne is quite a mature organization, association. We're founded in 1995 and really have become an organization that is very much a bridge between the mountain world and the social and educational sector, using the mountains as a tool for social inclusion, but also ensuring that there is access for everyone. So the objectives of the association is specifically to create access for everyone to the mountain environment. As we noted in the beginning, we know that the mountains traditionally are quite reserved to a specific elite. And that's something that we see even here. I think if you say in general, if you look at Chamonix as an area, you assume that everybody who lives here is always making use and playing in the mountains, but that's definitely not the case. And it's as much more important to ensure that that access really exists. We promote the mountains as a tool for social inclusion. So En Passant par la Montagne works together with welfare services from all over France to consider the mountain environment and its potential for social and educational interventions. And finally, why we are here as well, speaking as an expert, is that we try to bring that knowledge of how we do that across and create pathways for social and educational experiences in the mountains. There are four main programs for En Passant par la Montagne. The first is the social mountains. So where we support specialized welfare services to organize educational trips in the mountains, so typically multi-day activities. We also have inclusive mountain activity where we support the inclusion of people who live in the mountains, but who do not naturally have access to them. So this is very much local initiatives. We also promote mountain sports for all, where we like to develop inclusive mountain sport clubs that allow people in vulnerable situations to climb or hike in a completely safe and friendly environment. And finally, there is also an element of training where, as an association, we inspire and train social workers to use activities in the mountain environment as an educational tool. I will speak to you a little bit more about the first two of those programs, and we'll give some more information about that and then allow you to ask any questions that you have about that, or maybe as well about other activities that we do. So firstly, when we look at the educational trips, we're talking about on-demand trips. So it's trips that we organize in collaboration and financed by welfare services that we work together with. They're always targeting specific communities that the welfare services are already working with. And they have some predetermined social and educational objectives that are set by our association in collaboration with the welfare services, which then link into the type of activities that are offered during the trips. There's a specific methodology that's applied to ensure then that those sort of social and educational objectives are met. And finally, of course, this is not something that's decided on paper in advance and then just put in practice, but we're continuously looking how we can improve and how we can ensure that we get optimum outcomes from the program by working with the welfare services and working as well with the target group and the communities that are targeted by the activities. Specifically, if we're looking at those target groups, we work with a bunch of different services. So we work with protected minors and young migrants. This is a collaboration that we do with Aide Sociale à l'Enfance. So it's a child welfare program. We also work with young offenders monitored by judicial protection. This is then a collaboration with the Protection Judiciaire de la Jeunesse. So it's youth judicial protection services. We also work with people with disabilities. We do that in collaboration with the Structure Médico-Sociale, what's it called in France. So it's sort of centers for people with disabilities in a broadest sense. We also work with prisoners. This can be a collaboration then with the prisons and prison guards. And we also work with minors and young adults monitored by specialized prevention services, which we do in collaboration with those specialized prevention services. And finally, also with the education sector and students who are facing difficulties through the education system. So I put here every time the target group as well as the welfare services, because as I mentioned on the previous slide, these trips are on demand provided. So we are always contacted by these services directly to help them organize an activity in the mountains. So in the years that we exist now, the 28 years, we have built up the reputation so that they come to us to organize the activities together. How do we do that then? So as I said, we first have the contact by the welfare services, and then together we are going to decide on a joint educational objective. What are we trying to reach? What are we trying to work on? I'll give a little bit more detail about that in the next slide. We then propose adapted activities to that specific objective. And also set a price point of what the welfare services can expect. We, of course, as an association, we're a nonprofit association. We work with as many partners as possible to make the price as fair as possible. But we do need these activities to be financed directly by those services. We then prepare the trip. which usually takes about 3-4 months, where we take a lot of attention to the choice of the type of accommodation, the choice of the specific professionals, looking at guides and accompagnateurs. So it's guides in the mountains that we can put in that specific project. Usually it depends a little bit on the target group, what professionals we're going to work with. So we have a large number of professionals that we have access to, but some might be a little bit better to deal with one specific target group or another. We then also have some contact with the target group themselves to prepare them for the opportunity. And this is specifically why we need those 3-4 months, is to make sure that we don't go from zero to, okay, now let's organize a big activity in the mountain, but that we really prepare in advance this target group for doing an activity in the mountains. This includes as well an in-person meeting with the target group and the welfare services together to really sort of get everything on point. Finally, then it's the trip itself, where we keep adapting those objectives that we set, and where, as I said, there's a continuous dialogue between En Passant par la Montagne, the welfare services, and the target communities to ensure that we have the best possible outcomes for the activities. As I said, specific objectives lead to specific activities, and I think this is something quite well, specific as well for En Passant par la Montagne. If we're looking, for example, with the welfare services that we're working with a bunch of young people, want to make sure that they are challenging themselves a little bit, but that they also have an aspect of team building and building into community life. Perhaps we're going to present an activity of mountaineering because there is a physical challenge, because they work together in a team, in a row group, and for the community life aspect, they stay together in mountain huts. So there is different aspects related to the different activities. When we want to work more on confidence, confidence in themselves and confidence in others, we are more going to look to a climbing activity where, of course, the climbing is an element of confidence in themselves, and having yourself be late is something where you have confidence in others. Also, then when we want to work on autonomy, group cohesion, living together, there's a lot of opportunities as well around multi-day trekking. You also see an image here of us doing that in the winter time, where they are carrying their own gear. You get to a point together, you have your little sort of life in the tipi in the mountains, and that's really sort of also very sort of living together, nice joining activity. So together with welfare services that we're working with, we're going to determine which activity and which objectives we want to achieve. This is another nice image of us going into the mountains. It's just a really, really good to see what kind of different activities are on offer, and that really can make a change for the faces that we see in the mountains. The second activity then is around the mountain neighborhoods. So as I said, it's one of the more recent activities actually by En Passant par la Montagne. But as I said here as well, in this area, even though we're in one of the most famous areas when it comes to mountaineering and activities in the mountains in general, there is quite a lot of people living in working class neighborhoods in these mountain towns here in the valley who do not have access to the mountains for some kind of social, cultural, or economic reasons. And there's actually quite a lot of people who also consider everything that you have to do in the mountains. Also here, it's very quickly, very steep, and actually not very accessible at all. So we have a specific program that we run there, which is based around these mountain neighborhoods, where we do a set of progressive activities to build desire in a specific working class neighborhood in one of the mountain towns to explore the mountains more. We start these activities with a mural that we paint in collaboration with the local artist and the local youth to have sort of a connection activity already sort of connecting the neighborhood to the mountain environment, which also has some environmental aspects to it. So really sort of creating a first connection to the mountains. Then we start with an orienteering activity as well, which is one day sort of afternoon activity where we set up an orienteering course that people can take part in. We then go into a neighborhood festival, so always a little bit sort of one step further, but we're still in the neighborhood where we have a climbing wall set up and where we have a lot of different activities that bring that sort of mountain atmosphere and mountain sports right into the neighborhood to again sort of lower the barriers that people might face to seek access to those mountains themselves. We then organize a one-day climbing activity, the climbing activity where we take young people from the neighborhood to a climbing area nearby that's also oriented towards beginners a little bit. So depending on where we are in the valley, there's going to be a climbing area quite close by or maybe a little bit less close by, but it'd be as close as possible to the neighborhood themselves, so that they can experience a sort of a first day activity in the mountains. To then finally take 20 youngsters from the neighborhood on a mountaineering activity where they spend 2 days in the mountains with a night stay in the hut. All of these activities we do in collaboration with local street workers and welfare services, so that we really open up the mountains to this specific working class neighborhoods, and that we also make as much use of the sort of educational potential that these activities have for that specific group as well, understanding what we can do to make sure we really sort of make maximum use for the outcomes of those activities. I now have a little video of one of the activities. The video is quite long in total, so I think it's about 9 minutes. I'm not going to show the whole video, but we will make sure that we share the link so that if you want to see a little bit more about this specific activity, that you can go in. One more thing I want to say about this activity, it's quite different from the trips in a way that these activities are organized and financed directly by our association. So we do seek sponsors here in the local area, of course, in the neighborhood and in the town that we're working with, as well as through brand partners. But we do not organize these in a sort of an on-demand way, but more as a choice for us to go to the different mountain towns one after the other and sort of open up the activities here. Here comes the video. Oh, okay, let's go to the video first.
Vous savez ce que c'est une course d'orientation? Non? Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on va aller chercher?
Des balises.
Vous allez vous mettre par équipe de 2 ou 3.
Camille, oh vas-y.
Vous allez chacun avoir une carte. Avec derrière, il y aura marqué dans quel ordre il faut que vous fassiez les balises. Ok?
Donc, vous trouvez sur la carte, vous trouvez la 1. Quand vous arrivez sur la 1, hop, vous prenez et vous poinçonnez la carte.
Donc l'association Passant par la montagne a été créée il y a 25 ans pour permettre à des personnes en situation de fragilité, de difficulté, d'accéder à la montagne et de trouver par la montagne un nouvel élan pour leur futur.
D'accord, on se repère comme ça. Tu vois, les balises, elles étaient derrière nous tout à l'heure.
C'est par là-bas alors?
Ah, commencez pas à courir, bande de gazelles, voilà. Je vais même pas serrer mes chaussures.
On propose des séjours éducatifs pour les structures sociales de toute la France et on mène aussi de plus en plus des projets sur le territoire pour permettre aux personnes qui n'ont pas accès facilement à la montagne d'y accéder et de pouvoir s'insérer sur le territoire.
Et là, regarde. Nous, on a marché, on arrive à cette route-là, je pense.
On est passé 3 fois dedans, enfin devant.
Oh, yes. Ok, c'est tout bon les gars, bravo.
Nous sommes un établissement public
I'm going to stop here already, but we'll share the link with you so you can watch the whole video after the presentation. Oops. Trying to get back. Yes, whoops. Just going to share the presentation again. There we go. So here we were. So with this mountain neighborhoods, you saw some images from the activity that we did already a couple of years ago in 2020 in Chamonix itself. For those who were really quick to recognize the mountains, you could see Mont Blanc in the background there. And then we also did some other activities. So we went to Lange in 2021, Passy in 2022, Cluse this year in 2023, and we have plans to go to Bonneville in 2024. So as you will see, the different activities here on the slide, so the orange squares that we went to have already taken place. Our home, as you can see, is in Servoz, there where you see the little yellow house. And then we will go to Bonneville, the green square, next year. So you can see the Lac Le Mans there on the top. So that gives you a little bit of geographical connection of where we're operating. So as you can see, we're going through the different neighborhoods and the different towns, where every time we go into this sort of, let's say, popular neighborhood to organize these activities, and then connecting these activities also to local mountain area. Our goal is for those activities not to be standalone, but for there to be some kind of follow-up on the activities, which we've had, for example, in Chamonix, where at the Pèlerin, which is a neighborhood where we were, there's an annual festival, and now every year we put up the climbing wall at the annual neighborhood festival. We also have a mountain group for young people that was established as a follow-up of these activities in Salange. And then there was also a women-only climbing activity that took place as after, I think, the activity in Passy, but the team can further confirm, which was something that was quite unique, specifically working with Muslim women as well, where we created a safe environment so that they could go climbing and could take off the headscarf, which we tried to facilitate so that they could have this safe environment to take part in the activities. So that's it in terms of the sort of two projects we wanted to highlight today. I'll now sort of skip over, if I can skip over the video, that would be great. I might lose the screen share again. Okay, sorry for that. Just resharing now. And here we are again. So I just wanted to share a couple of numbers so that you have some idea for Passant par la Montagne as well. So per year, the association has about 300 beneficiaries through about 30 different projects. So whether this is educational trips or one project in a neighborhood. So we choose a neighborhood every time, and then there's a lot of other projects beside that. We have around 300 to 400,000 euros annual budget. There's 3 employees working for Passant par la Montagne and 1 board of directors with 17 board members. We include mountain professionals as well as people from the wider sector. So it's very sort of diverse board to feed into the activities, as well as a sort of a network of 50 mountain professionals and guides that we work with that have this specific sort of social fiber to work with these specific target groups. we work with a lot of partners and supporters as well. So we have some brand partners that we work with, which you can see on the right, who either provide some material to us or some financing of the activities. There is a lot of governmental partners, which you can see on the left, which are, of course, also these sort of, a lot of the welfare structures have a government link that we're working with. And then in the middle, you can see we also work with a lot of local partners. For example, the lifts that get people into the mountains here in the area, as well as some local film festival and that type of organization, or UTMB, as you might know, who support the association as well. So there is a lot of different partners that we work with, and this is also something that enables us, of course, to put these activities in place. That's it from my side, and we're very happy to see if there's any questions that we can answer with the team.
Super, thank you, Margo, and thank you, Andrea, for this, in my view, very inspiring presentations. The message that resonates with me at this moment very much is that actually responsibility for participation of excluded parts of society really lies on adults and on the majority of society, and that these usually excluded parts, groups, people actually show interest if they're invited into activities, and if someone really shows them how to do this. So now we still have some minutes left. Let's say we should finish our meeting 25 minutes past 5, but until then we can discuss. If someone has a question, can raise a hand or write the question in the chat, and me and Veronica will moderate this. Are there any questions maybe in the chat already, Veronica? I didn't see. We don't hear you.
Sorry. In the chat so far, there are no questions. So if somebody from the audience wants to raise their hands, now is your moment. Are there any questions for Andrea or for Margo and the team of En Passant par la Montagne?
Maybe I can break an ice with the question. I have a bit of an overview, but maybe other participants don't know how big your organizations are, just for how many people work there. This would be one question. And yes, other questions I ask later. I have many of them.
Should I start?
Yeah. Please.
So yes, our organization actually employs 70 educators. Well, not 70 educators. Most of the people employed are educators. That means that they have a degree in educational science. And we have an administrative part based on 5 people. So 5 people is administrative. All the rest are mostly educators. And just to give you some hints, maybe that might be helpful. We grew up really a lot during COVID, because before COVID, our organization has only 30 employees. After COVID, educational became a really big issue, so we started to going up after that. Is one of the few examples, I think, of enterprise that started developed after or during that period.
Yeah, I can answer as well for En Passant par la Montagne, but also mentioned in the presentation. So there is a network of about 50 professionals that we work with, which is mountain guides who are called in on specific trips. But the actual team for En Passant par la Montagne consists of 3 employees. and then the support of the board of directors, which consists of 17 people.
Thank you. I see that Henny has raised her hand, so please ask away.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for Passant pour la Montagne, and I would like to know what long-term effects you can see on the mountain communities where you do the activities, or if there are any.
I'm going to pass that one on to the team because I haven't been there for that long. So, Damien, go ahead, I'll translate for you.
Est-ce que tu peux traduire, Margot, s'il te plaît?
Ouais, pas de souci.
Donc, traduire la question.
Ah, ok, la question. Donc, ils ont demandé s'il y a des effets à long terme que vous voyez avec le réseau des associations que vous travaillez avec, mais aussi peut-être ici dans la région avec les activités que vous avez déjà faites. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a des effets à long terme, en fait, que vous voyez?
Pour les projets type, les projets classiques, c'est difficile parce que les structures, elles viennent de toute la France et on a du suivi sur du court terme, mais pas sur du très long terme. Par contre, pour les actions locales, oui, parce que c'est ce que tu expliquais, il y a eu la création de groupes Montagne où les gens peuvent s'inscrire aussi dans les clubs, dans nos clubs d'escalade. Et là, on arrive à voir qu'il y a une suite et que sur, je sais pas moi, 20 enfants qu'on a rencontrés, il y en a 7 ou 8 qui vont continuer à faire de la montagne.
So they're saying that for the educational trips that are organized in collaboration with the welfare services, it's quite challenging to say because En Passant par la Montagne is requested to come in to organize a specific trip, but the sort of long-term follow-up with those structures who are not necessarily from a mountain environment, but they come from all over France, is challenging to keep following up what the long-term impact of that specific activity was, which of course is also something that can be seen in isolation with this one activity, but has to be seen with all the work that the social welfare structure does in general. But for the local activities or the mountain neighborhood activities, it is really clear that there is some effects, some of which I also highlighted in the presentation. So Damien said that out of the 20 youngsters that they see in the activities, probably about 8 are interested actually to continue doing some type of activities. So it's really good to see that this type of approach to get people more involved in the activities and creating actual access to the mountains is very beneficial and has a really good effect.
Thank you. Merci.
Are there any other questions from anybody from the audience? Yes, Isabella.
Hi, everyone. I just had a call. That's maybe why I missed just the last part, and I'm not sure if the second and the question was already raised. But I wondered, as you're in the region of Chamonix, is there, how can we say it? Is there some kind of inequalities in the public, the people that you reach? Because Chamonix is quite a rich region. How are the regions and the places around Chamonix? Like, how do you work together with this quite rich and touristic region, maybe with people coming just for short term? Is there a demand? Do you also serve those people from this region, or a lot of people coming from outside of the mountain area?
Damien, Barbara, do you want me to translate or it's okay?
Before I work in the association, I was an educator in the streets in Chamonix during 8 years. And in this moment, I can see the difference with the rich people coming from holidays and the people who live here and who do the work, the little work for the people in holiday, understand? And there is a big difference for these people. And these people is not visible, okay, in Chamonix, because because we don't want to see her. We have a lot of work with these people who live here, but she don't think he can go in the mountain because she thinks it's not for her. They just want to be here for working, but the children maybe can go in the mountain. We have a lot of difference with poor people and rich people in Chamonix. And the other at the other town of our project, the other town we have most working class neighborhood, and in the other town in the valley. It's okay, understand?
Yes, all right.
All right, more questions. Who else wants to ask something? Who else has a question for Andrea or for Margo?
I would like, I don't know why I cannot use the option to raise hand. I'm sorry for that. It just doesn't work. I have a question for Andrea. When you were saying that when you were first called to the town and like you heard about this vandalism and yeah, I'm actually, my question is, what kind of methods did you use to kind of first make the connection with this youth? Like, because I believe that many times they would just be like, who you are, what do you want from me? Like, I don't want to do this. So this is what I imagine. So I would like to hear if it's not true, or even more important, yeah, how did you do it?
Yes, thank you for the question. What we do to engage this youngster is we call it street work, and it's something that we usually do in general, also in other municipalities. Basically, there are two educators that starting to going around in the territory, starting to see where the youngster would gather, what they would do, etc. And then slowly they start to engage with them. So it has been a long process. It took like 3-4 months in order to get in touch with them, because it is really let's say you're working on a line, a very narrow line, when you're working with kids in this way, because you have on one side to gain their trust, and for the other side to not be perceived as an institution. So all this work has led them to, like, step by step, get in contact with them, knowing their names, asking them questions, what would you like? And then you started to engage them more and more. For example, two of the first actions that happened, that they have been, let's say, involved in co-projecting, was simply a soccer tournament for the boys, and for the girls, they realized a makeup day where any other adults would like to have their makeup being over, that make, I don't know, a new makeup. They were there. They said, okay, you can come and we do the makeup for you. But this has been the fruits of really a long period of just going there and meeting them, knowing them, etc., and gaining their trust. I hope that I have answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrea. Does anybody else want to raise their hand, ask a question? We still have some time to discuss. Okay, maybe I will ask a question that is for the both of you, like a very big and general question, but like, what would your advice be for people and organizations that are working with people or young people? How can we be more inclusive in our work and projects?
I would go first. Yeah, as I was saying, how to be inclusive, simply by asking them what really are their desire, how do they see them, how they would like to to cooperate with you, what they can do. But this is like the base. In this way, you make that you don't go there and you say, okay, we are at this level higher than you. We are at the same level. Therefore, they would feel more and more included, and they would be also more and more helpful, willing to cooperate and to start to work together.
Margo, tu peux traduire?
Ouais, pas de souci. Donc,
non,
la
non,
question...
non, ce que je vais donner.
Ah oui, ok.
Ben, ce qu'on disait, nous, c'était d'arriver à se rapprocher des structures locales autour de la Via Alpina qui s'occupent des personnes fragiles. Il doit y avoir sûrement des associations, des centres d'accueil pour des personnes en difficulté. Et ces gens-là, on peut aller voir directement les professionnels parce qu'ils sauront comment s'y prendre, les éducateurs, trouver les services avec des éducateurs et aller à leur rencontre.
Et puis le deuxième point qui est important, je pense, c'est de proposer aussi des choses qui sont tous et adaptées à tous les publics, et notamment aux personnes fragiles qui n'ont pas l'habitude. Donc, aller vraiment doucement, progressivement, et bien expliquer aussi quand on essayer de les mettre vraiment, qu'ils deviennent acteurs. Et si ça vient de nous, si ça vient de vous, la proposition, c'est vraiment les impliquer, leur donner envie pour qu'ils soient moteurs dans le projet.
So 2 points raised by Damien and Barbara. One point was along the Via Alpina, there's lots of organizations that are working with specific communities in terms of welfare and social services that could be great connection points to work on a more inclusive environment in general, and to change that picture that Henrietta was also mentioning in the beginning. And then the second point, what Barbara said, was that you have to really go slow to make sure, if you work with this kind of structure and these services, that you take them with you on a journey, so that they can be a motor for the activities, so that it's not just an approach, but really a collaboration where they can take an active role in taking their community into the mountain environment and exploring and making use of that environment and its educational potential. I hope I translated well.
Thank you for the translation. Is there anybody else who wants to ask a question? I think, Maya, you said you had some questions. Is there something that you want to ask?
Yes, always. Maybe before I ask my question, if some of you has a question in their native language, like Slovene, German, or Italian, you can, and if it would be easier, you can also tell it in this language, and we will translate it here, because we speak in our team all these languages. Maybe one question that's personally interesting me. What is your biggest learning from your work experience, from working in this field?
Andrea, will you go first? Then I can give the team a bit of time to discuss.
Okay, I will try. The big knowledge that I gathered by doing this work is that that you never know what can flourish when you connect different kind of people, and sometimes you can be also very surprised by what came up, and also that most of the time, the people that are excluded because they are perceived as someone that maybe they do not do, maybe that is a practical case. Someone cannot find a job because they are perceived like because they don't want to, they do not have skills, they do not have abilities. Once that you involve them and you try to reason with them, and you take them step by step towards their job, towards their work, and you make them understand that maybe some skills are not important at all. You have other skills, you empower them. they can fly. Yeah, they can take the street, and they at a certain time they would be able to walk alone. Okay. These are the two, the same best knowledge that I have from my work. Margot.
Margot, tu peux traduire?
Ouais.
Ouais. Il y a deux choses, moi, on a pensé à plusieurs choses. Moi, il y en a une, c'est sur, en fait, c'est à chaque fois que les gens découvrent des capacités, des choses dont ils ne se croyaient pas capables. Et j'ai un exemple, alors je ne sais pas si tu pourras traduire, mais on a fait de l'escalade avec une association qui s'occupe de personnes hémiplégiques. Tu vois, c'est des personnes qui sont handicapées d'un côté et qui, à la première séance, arrivent et ne savent pas monter. Et même malgré leur handicap, arrivent à monter en haut de la voie, alors qu'au départ, ils ne s'imaginaient pas du tout pouvoir y arriver. Ça, à chaque fois, et que ce soit avec des gens handicapés, mais aussi après avec des jeunes, des difficultés, qui ont des problèmes de surpoids ou de choses comme ça, à chaque fois, ils pensent qu'ils n'y arriveront jamais. Et à la fin, ils y arrivent. Et voilà, ce que ça leur procure, ça, c'est vraiment quelque chose d'assez génial à voir à chaque fois. Et puis toi, Barbara, tu disais par rapport au public des migrants?
Oui, alors c'est vrai qu'on apprend plein de choses à côté de différents publics et on a aussi cette chance d'avoir vraiment des publics variés. Et moi, c'est vraiment par rapport aux migrants aussi, parce qu'on va travailler avec les migrants, on va parcourir la montagne avec des migrants qui ont déjà fait un trajet dans la montagne et qui peut être du coup quand même assez traumatisant. Et je trouve que dès la première sortie, ils arrivent à tout de suite prendre du plaisir dans la montagne, alors que nous, on se dirait, oh là là, c'est un retour en arrière, c'est compliqué. Et eux, on arrive tout de suite, ils arrivent à prendre plaisir dans un lieu qui a potentiellement été compliqué pour eux. Donc, c'est cette résilience. J'apprends beaucoup, moi, sur voilà, la résilience au travers avec nos publics. Et puis pour finir, c'est les sourires de tous les... En fait, c'est vraiment fort quand un jeune qui vient d'un quartier de Paris qui n'est pas content de venir, il arrive, il n'est pas content et quand on va en montagne et à la fin il nous dit ah, c'est beau, et ben voilà, ça nous apprend, on apprend sur nous, sur les autres et voilà.
Okay, so a couple of things that Damien and Barbara take from the activities is Damien specifically said that it's really, really powerful to see people who are really surpassing themselves. Specifically mentioned working with people who are paralyzed on one side and going climbing in the mountains. But the first time they try, they don't make it, or they feel like they are not really going to be able to do that activity. But in the end, for example, climbing is an activity that is very adaptable. So they manage to climb to the top and to see the effect that it has on them and on their confidence. That they can actually make it is something that is super powerful. And if we can create this kind of powerful experiences, it's something that we should be very grateful for, probably. Barbara, on the other side, she mentioned that the work that do as well with the migrants is something that's really powerful, where we see that but a lot of the migrants that we work with, they have some potentially really challenging relationship with nature, because in some way or another, they had to traverse or make their way through a natural environment, which can be a very traumatizing experience that they went through. So to take people back to that environment is not something that is very easy per se. But they see in the activities that really from the first outing, when it's done in the right way, that you see the smiles on their faces and that they are actually really happy to take part in this kind of activity, and that you can sort of take away some of the trauma of the things that they went through, away from that sort of being in nature, which I think we all know is something that can be very good for physical as well as mental health. And in general, Barbara mentioned as well that seeing the smiles on people's faces when they go do these activities in general is something that is very, very powerful. So that's their examples.
And I can add a word if I can. I'm Boris, so I'm mountain guide with En Passant par la Montagne. And on my side, so it's like the mountain side, what is really impressive with these young people is they are able to do a lot of stuff. They don't know the mountain, they don't know the sports we are going to do together, and they are so impressive to be able to, okay, I don't know this kind of sport, I don't know hiking, I don't know climbing, but I'm going to try, and they do it. They do it every time, and so this is really impressive. As sometimes with people who know the activity, they are afraid. Sometimes they are stressed by. So the people we bring in mountains, they don't know all this stuff, so they just go and they will see, and they achieve that every time. So it's so impressive, yeah.
Great, thank you. We have a little bit more time, so if there's any more questions from the audience, now's your chance to ask away. Are there any more questions?
If I can just add a reflection
Yes,
from my side as well, I think there is an opportunity in social inclusion in a mountain environment. You know, we see it more and more that we work in a very fragile environment, also from an environmental perspective. And at the same time, we see it here in the valley. There's so many people who do not share this connection to the environment that we work in, that we play in. And to be able to create those connections, it serves the social perspective, it serves an environmental perspective, it serves on a personal level, from a physical perspective, from a mental health perspective. There's just so much to win from reaching out, I think. And that's my reflection.
Thank you for that reflection. Okay, last chance now for questions. Yes, Isabella.
It just came to my mind as I was talking to youth workers here in Switzerland, asking them what they would need or what kind of activity they would like to have to bring young people to the mountains. And they were like, often those young people already living in a mountain region, maybe coming from a mountain region, maybe not being or having a difficult social background, for example, they often want to leave the mountains, and they're happy to go out of the mountains and not go back again because they just know this area. And I was asking myself, okay, how could we make it more? Is this also kind of a task we need to do to make the mountains more attractive to them, or tell them, hey, this is also a nice place, a cool place to be. There have to be more opportunities for the young people to also keep them kind of a bit in the mountains. Just a reflection or a discussion I had recently with educators, with youth workers in a mountain region, working with young people and saying, hey, you can't just offer them something in the mountains because they just want to go to the cities, experience something. Yeah, maybe also others had this experience or saw this.
All right, thank you, Isabella, for your experience and your reflection. I'm going to close the discussion now. Thank you for your thoughts, for the questions, for your reflections, for this really interesting discussion and your presentations. So with this, we are closing today's expert talk about social inclusion and social justice along the Via Alpina. Like I said in the beginning, it was part of the Via Alpina Youth project and was made possible by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. We are planning another expert talk next year, and we will keep you updated on it and hope to see you there again. And if you're interested in following the project or staying up to date, then you can go and visit our website. We are going to send and upload some information there soon on our project website. We are going to publish the presentations today that you saw there. And yes, that is basically all that we wanted to say for the end. Have a nice evening. And thank you again to Margot, to Andrea, to Barbara and Damien and Boris for your interesting inputs, and to all of you for listening. And yeah, goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.